In 1989, a little Belgian detective with a monumental mind minced onto our television screens to solve the most mind-boggling murders and dastardly deeds. Agatha Christie's most famous sleuth was reborn 13 years after her death. David Suchet's Poirot was an instant smash with viewers and her family.
Well, I think she would have thought he was wonderful.
I'm very sorry that she never saw the series. I really do wish she had, because I'm proud of the production.
The care that the precision that he brings to it is exactly right for the character he's trying to do. So his kind of way of approaching it is actually an approach that the Poirot himself would use. That, you know, that's a compliment.
Well, I will always see David as the definitive Poirot. There won't be another for me. I thought Albert Finney's performance was a bit overdrawn, and Peter Ustinov was a bit too quirky.
I think David Suchet is a definitive Poirot for me. He exactly balanced the sort of the comic side of the character with the serious side, the sort of the brain power with the sort of slight childishness of it all. I don't think we've seen a better Poirot.
Landing the part was fairly straightforward, but for Suchet, it was never a question of just donning a moustache and speaking with an accent.
But I will get to the bottom of this matter.
For months before the camera started rolling, he devoured Poirot books and perfected his mincing walk.
I actually do it by squeezing my bottom very tight. And that gives me if you squeeze your bottom very, very tight and try and walk, you can't take very long strides, and that gives me his walk.
First time you'd see Poirot, you'd think, what a peculiar looking fella, and you wouldn't expect the audience to relate to him. You didn't want to be seen walking down the street with him.
I wanted to get it right for Agatha Christie, because I had also read that she had never been happy with any interpretation of this character at all.
He was very anxious to capture the character as Agatha wrote him, and did a tremendous amount of research. His Royal Shakespeare Company training led him really to read all of the Christie books and everything he could about the character.
He knows every single point in every single novel, even to having his eggs the right size.
I cannot eat these eggs. They are of totally different sizes.
You know, the little dab-dab with the serviette on his moustache, and everything is perfect.
If David had any doubts about playing Poirot for laughs, Agatha's daughter Rosalind set him straight.
I had gone out to lunch with Rosalind Hicks and her husband, and I was given a talking to over that lunch. And Anthony and Rosalind were absolutely definite about not playing him as a clown.
We are not playing a game, Hastings. We are hunting down a murderer.
And said to me, you must take on board this very fact, they said, and pointed a finger. One must never laugh at Poirot. One can smile with him.
I think perhaps when I return to London, I shall leave them here. Thank you. Santé.
While walking the walk proved tricky for David to nail,
Waiter! Oh!
talking the talk took months to master.
With this address, she will hear something to her profit.
Advantage.
Yes? Good.
I listened to country French, in French, Parisian French, Belgian French, Belgian Flemish, and put a bit of everything in.
Do they think they can get rid of Hercule Poirot like that, huh? No! No, 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 no!
What David would do was to move the position of the verb in the sentence.
Ah. Could you show to us his bathroom?
And it was just this little trick that he'd learned of how to take all the right words but say them in not necessarily in the right order, and that's, I think, what gave it a very, very characterful way of speaking without it sounding silly.
Yes, Hastings, we pull ever so gently the leg.
David Suchet first appeared as Poirot in The Adventures of the Clapham Cook, which was based on a short story published in 1923.
I am a Hercule Poirot? Yes, madame.
Oh, you're not a bit how I thought you'd be.
The first of a 10-part series, it was the tale of a missing domestic, which quickly turns into a murder mystery. After a few false turns, Poirot has got his man.
Stop that man!
With a little help along the way from Hastings,
Just fill your lungs with that air.
Jap,
This is nonsense, Poirot.
and Miss Lemon.
Mr. Poirot, Mr. Poirot,
Yes, Miss Lemon, yes.
there's a letter, sir. A letter from Eliza Dunn.
There!
They featured less in Christie's books, but this television trio were to tag along on Poirot's adventures for years to come.
I'll lay odds on that.
Hastings isn't in very many of the books, in fact. He was put in since he wasn't in, as was Jap and Miss Lemon.
I do think for a television series you need a basic family unit, whether it's a family or not, for people who interact with each other.
I didn't even know they made films in Belgium.
Why is it the fate of Hercule Poirot to live among such Philistines?
Also, it's very useful for a not very clever writer like me to have somebody for Poirot to confide in.
Hastings, I've had enough of this case.
I could bounce off Hastings because Hastings would see everything in black and white.
He's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but he's, he means well.
3 men went to mow a meadow.
3 men, 2 men, 1 man and his dog went to mow a meadow.
And his function in the series really is to provide the mechanism to elucidate the plot, because he doesn't always get what's going on, so he asks questions.
Hastings makes some apparently innocuous remark about, don't the marigolds look beautiful? And that would be spark off something in his head.
So I would say, is that so? Thank you, Hastings, because he was invaluable to me, or Poirot.
But then the question becomes, why did Arlena Stewart enter the cave?
Well, perhaps she was hiding from someone.
Hastings, once again you arrive at an explanation which makes everything